no problem. Good morning. My name is Tom. I come to you from the Rustic log cabin in Northern Maine. Welcome to my trapping shed today. Get yourself a cup of coffee. You see I got 30-06 laying here, 2 of them. I got a single shot 30-06 and I got my 5-shot Remington pump 7600 model. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're in the middle of bear season right now. All that's going on. Deer season is sneaking up on us. So I'm working in the shop today. What I need to build, I'm building up a bunch of hunting benches. I built, if you're following these, this right here is going to be video number 1 in big buck hunting season 2022. Over at Beaver Creek. I haven't got it all worked out yet, but we're going to run another series here on buck hunting season 2022. If you've been following my channel at all over the last 2 years, we have built up Beaver Creek Outpost, which is a deer hunting camp far back in the woods here in the state of Maine. The only access to it is with a 4-wheeler, 6-wheeler, or a snowmobile. So that's the only way in. It took me years and years and years to locate such a property like that. So if you haven't subscribed to this channel, you are really missing out on a great adventure. So if you want, take time, subscribe, and I'm going to tell you about that adventure. And we're going to start this year. It'll be a serious hunt this year. Last year I was building the cabin. I had to put in a trail to get to the property. We got the cabin built. I was still putting boards on that cabin the first part of deer season. So really I sacrificed last year's deer season to get this cabin built. So anyways, to shorten up the story, we got the cabin built. I was able to get a couple of weeks in for deer hunting season, and I was able to get in muzzle loading season. But I think with all the commotion of working in there and building, that we just changed the way things are. And if you watched any of my videos, tree stands and cabins, they all got to ripen. You know, you got to leave them out there for a year and let the animals get used to them. So the cabin's been there for a year now, and this summer we worked on building. I've got 2 tree stands in. I've almost got the 3rd one built out here in the yard, and I'll be delivering it. What they are hunt shacks, 5 feet by 8 feet up on pipe staging. So it makes for a really nice, I've got a roof on it, 4 walls. I've built them bigger this time because I got 4 grandsons that are coming up behind me, and they're going to want a place to hunt. So it'll be a great place for me to take the boys, train them up and all of that, and keep a good close eye on them. But I need some benches for all these hunt shacks, and I also need some benches for out in the woods, because I don't only do tree stand hunting. Every once in a while I'll take a depending on what day of the week it is and stuff like that, I might want to set in a different piece of the woods. So I always leave my options open. And what I've been building for years, I'm going to do it today, so at the end of this video I will have it to show you. But I build a little two-legged hunting bench. I have been building these benches for 30 years. I put a coat of stain on them, and then I deliver them out in the woods. And if any piece of woods I've been in, if you find a bench hanging up in a tree, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm the one that put it there. I've built so many, I can't even begin to tell you how many of these benches that I've built. But if you take that little bench, it's only about this wide, it's 18 inches tall. I do put a rope on down in the framework of it so that I can sling it over my shoulder. And when I get to a spot that I like and I know that I'll be back, or during my scouting I might even find these spots that I want to hunt or I want to overlook, whatever, then I'll hike in one of these benches. And what you do with it is you hang it up in a tree. I put a couple of coats of brown stain on it, nothing fancy, just something to protect it. And then I'll hang it up in a tree. If one spot I got up around the cabin there, it's got an apple tree, and I've had a bench hanging in that apple tree for what, 12 years now. And I got another one, we call it CLC Bluff. I've got it on the hike into it. I don't have it right up on top because there's a couple places that I like to sit around there depending on what the animals are doing. So down at the base of the bluff, I've got another bench hanging in a maple tree. You find a tree with a crotch in it and you just set the bench in there with the seat side up so it will shed the water, and it'll last forever up in there. I've had these benches hanging in trees for some of them more than 15 years and they're still going strong. You know, I get back in that area, I find my bench, I'll set up a ground blind, or already got one set up in an area. So it just works out pretty good that way. And that's kind of why I wanted to do this little short video today on, again, building your own gear. I don't buy any gear that I cannot build. It doesn't matter if you watch this channel at all. Like I said, if you haven't subscribed, then you truly are missing out on a DIY channel for building your own gear. I've built everything you can imagine. I've restored, I've repurposed, you name it. This channel is full of that stuff. But these benches are a tip that I've just been using for years and years and years, and you can sling one on your shoulder. Say you don't have a spot picked out. You could sling one of these little benches on your shoulder and hike for 20 minutes, sit down, take up a post somewhere for 20 minutes, a half hour, and then you can get up and you can move on down the trail again. Like I said, I put a nice little rope so you could sling it right from your shoulder, just like your rifle. It rides real good that way. And then and you can put a pad on there, do whatever you want to. What I've done on some of the ones that I really, really want to hike around is I've robbed the pad like off a duffel bag or something like that, a shoulder strap, and have that mounted on that little bench. So it just makes it so I can truck that bench anywhere I want to. 90% of the time it never comes out of the woods again. I'll get it into a location that I know I'm going to hunt, whether it be oaks or hardwoods and stuff like that. And I've got a couple of spots like that picked out over on Beaver Creek. And a half a mile to 3/4 of a mile away is an oak stand, and it's big. I mean, it's huge. I don't know how many acres it is, but it is huge. It's just great big oak trees, and there's always does in that area. When I'm headed out of the cabin with the six-wheeler, especially when the oaks start being on the ground, I constantly see the does up in and around those oak trees. So what I want to do is I want to get up in there, scout around a little bit before season, and I want to find a couple of spots up in them oaks spread out where I can put out 2 or 3 of these benches. And I'll do that prior to the season. So I'll have a good seat plan figured out. Normally what I look for in the oaks is if I can find 3 oaks that are growing up with a big space in the middle, then that's where I'll go in, kick the leaves out, and that's where I'll leave my bench. That just makes for a really nice blind, all set up. You're tucked into the oak trees, peeking out around the corner and all that. So I kind of like that. The same thing if I can find a spruce thicket. I don't like to cut the trees down if I don't have to, because I like live, natural camouflage. So I got my snippers, and I can get inside of a little cluster of fir trees, clip me out a nice little area in there, and we'll call that a ground blind. It'll continually, if you cut the tops off those spruce trees when they're young, they'll just get fat. They'll just fatten up. That's how they get a nice plump Christmas tree. Is you always going in and cutting the top off, So if you go in and cut the top off them fir trees, they stay alive, and you've got a natural ground blind that will constantly be in full camouflage for years to come, because you haven't cut it down or you haven't used dead debris to build your ground blind out of. And then of course you can fill in and under it, around it, to make a better blind. But that makes a perfect live blind up in the woods for one of these benches. So my plan today is to hopefully build a half a dozen benches, maybe more. We'll see how it goes. When it gets too warm to be playing with all that stuff, then I'm going to be moving on in the shop here. I've got 30 raccoon traps that I want to get set up and ready to go. So the other thing that's going on out at Beaver Creek, and since this is episode number 1 of this new series, I finally have got my meat pole installed. So last year I was hunting out there, didn't have a meat pole. Well, I don't get the heads mounted, I don't get the skins taken care of. I do, if you see behind me, I get the racks cut off, I hang the rack up, we put it in the rack pile, and then we move on to the next year. But one thing I have always done is gotten a great 8x10 of all of my deer. Whether it be bear, deer, whatever. My cabin is filled with 8x10s of the deer that I've taken. Same thing here in the shop. I've got some big buck pictures over there on the wall. That's just the way I have done it. So that's why I wanted that meat pole. As soon as I got a nice buck that I can hang up there, then we will consider that cabin finished. It's been a 2-year, for those of you that are new to the channel, like I said, it's been a 2-year project getting Beaver Creek up and running. I am pleased with it now. Once I get the next hunt shack in, which we'll be putting in a couple of weeks, tomorrow is Sunday, and I will be putting the siding on the last hunt shack that will be going in, and I've got my nephews lined up to go help me put that hunt shack in. I'm excited about that particular spot because I know what's there. It's a great funnel. It comes down along the side of Beaver Creek. There is always deer sign in there. They'll either go to the right of the tree stand, or they will swing around me and go up behind the cabin and down towards the other tree stand, which is on the other side of the property. So it's just a great funnel area. I've got most of the I got the trail in, so all I got to do is drag in the hunt shack, hopefully in about a week. But the trail is all in. I do need to make a loop trail out of it. We started, but you know, them hot temperatures back in July, it was hard to get anything accomplished. But anyways, the new trail goes right by this other hunt shack, which is going to be right in the fir trees. It's setting up on a knoll, so it's going to have a beautiful view of Beaver Creek and the marsh as well as the funnel that comes down from the well, it's actually up on a ridge. Hardwoods are up in there, oaks are up in there, all kinds of little goodies up in there. And then, like I said, the deer will come down, funnel in, and hopefully we'll be sitting right there and just plain make for a good shot on a nice buck coming through. So I have high hopes for Beaver Creek. It's a brand new hunt. It's a brand new scout. Everything about Beaver Creek is brand new. Like I said, it's the outpost to the Rustic log cabin. So between the two, my hunt is diversified, and now it's a matter of just putting all the pieces of the puzzle together and figuring out how to make it all work. It's an exciting time here at East Grand Woodsman. The ability to have two places to hunt, to me, is just awesome. So come along, subscribe, enjoy the channel, and let's get into buck hunting 2022 here in the great state of Maine. So have a cup of coffee with me, and I will see you next week.